Hello, Virgo. Um, your dreams have been weird lately, haven't they? Not nightmare weird, not anxiety dream weird, where you're back in high school taking tests you didn't study for. Different weird, vivid weird, symbolic weird. The kind where you wake up and the dream lingers. Not the details necessarily, but the feeling, the sense that your subconscious just tried to tell you something important and you're struggling to decode the message. Maybe you've been dreaming about doors, hallways with endless doors, choosing which one to open, standing in front of door wondering what's on other side, or walking through door and finding yourself in completely different landscape than you expected, or dreaming about travel, being on journey, packing, leaving, arriving somewhere new, missing flight, catching train at last second, moving through unfamiliar territory with sense of purpose you can't quite name. End quote. Or dreaming about people from your past showing up in present context. Ex appearing, but relationship dynamic is different. Old friend from childhood in your current apartment. Dead relative offering advice. People from different life chapters mixing in impossible combinations. Or dreaming about versions of yourself, seeing yourself from outside, watching yourself make choices, being two places simultaneously, operating in parallel realities where different decisions led to different outcomes. These aren't random dreams, these aren't brain processing daily stress. These are messages, information being delivered through symbol and metaphor and imagery, because sometimes symbolic language communicates what linear language can't. And the reason dreams are becoming delivery system right now, reason your subconscious is activated, reason your sleep is producing vivid narratives instead of just processing fragments is because you're standing at threshold, at edge of timeline shift, at moment where life could go one direction or completely different direction depending on choices you make, on openings you pursue, on invitations you accept or decline. And your deeper knowing, the part of you that sees what conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet, is trying to get your attention, trying to communicate change is possible, movement is available, new timeline is accessible, but you have to choose it, have to recognize opening, have to say yes when invitation arrives. Here's what time to hop on new timeline actually means when it's not spiritual fluff. Timeline is just trajectory, path your life is currently on, based on patterns you're repeating, choices you're making, environment you're maintaining. If nothing changed, if you keep same job, same relationships, same habits, same beliefs, same responses to situations, your life will continue along predictable path, not necessarily bad path, just current path, known path. That's one timeline. The continuation timeline, the more of same timeline. But parallel to that timeline available right now, not years from now, right now is different timeline. Alternate trajectory based on different choices, different patterns, different environment, different beliefs. Same you, but different circumstances, different daily reality, different challenges, different opportunities, different outcomes. And hopping from one timeline to other isn't metaphysical magic, it's decision, it's choice, It's saying yes to thing you've been saying maybe to. It's saying no to thing you've been tolerating. It's changing pattern you've been repeating. It's taking action you've been avoiding. New timeline is job you've been hesitating to apply for, is city you've been thinking about moving to, is relationship you've been afraid to pursue or afraid to end, is business you've been planning but not launching, is healing work you've been avoiding, is creative project you've been dismissing as unrealistic. Whatever that thing is, that choice, that change, that movement, that's your entry point to new timeline. That's the door your dreams are pointing toward, even if they're not being literal about it. Why dreams specifically are delivering this message? Because conscious mind is defended, is logical, is practical, is full of reasons why new timeline is too risky, too difficult, too uncertain, too much. I can't afford to quit job. I'm too old to start over. What if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What will people think? Maybe I should wait until. Conscious mind is expert at maintaining status quo, at explaining why current timeline, even if unsatisfying, is safer than new timeline. But dreams bypass that defense. Dreams speak in symbols that slip past logical resistance. Dreams create feelings that motivate more than reasons prevent. You wake from dream about flying and feel possibility, feel lightness, feel what if, even if waking mind immediately says, but realistically. That feeling, that brief moment of possibility before logic crushes it, is doorway, is opening, is your deeper self communicating what your defended self won't let you acknowledge while awake. Because dreams access information conscious mind filters out. Dreams connect to intuition, to pattern recognition that operates faster than rational thought, to knowing that sees what's coming before evidence appears. Your deeper knowing can sense new timeline becoming available, can feel energy shifting, can detect opportunities organizing themselves, even though they haven't manifested yet in obvious ways. And dreams are how that knowing communicates, how it gets message past your defenses, how it says, pay attention when waking mind is too busy managing to notice what's emerging. What message in your dreams might actually look like? Might not be clear message, might not be dream where voice says, quit your job and move to Portland. Dreams don't typically work that way. Too literal, too obvious, more likely symbolic. You dream about being in building that's partially constructed, seeing yourself climbing, reaching new level you've never accessed before, finding room you didn't know existed. Or you dream about water, clear water, crossing body of water, being pulled by current, swimming toward shore you can barely see, water changing from murky to clear. Or you dream about animals, bird appearing repeatedly, snake shedding skin, butterfly emerging from cocoon, animal as messenger, even though you don't consciously understand what it's saying. Or you dream about numbers, seeing specific number repeatedly, time on clock always showing same digits, address, date, sequence that feels significant even though meaning isn't obvious. Or You dream about past versions of yourself, seeing childhood self, talking to younger you, making different choice in moment from your past, revisiting crossroads with new information. The message isn't always literal. Message is feeling, is direction, is sense of this way or not that way, or something's coming, or prepare to move. And you might not understand immediately, might wake up confused, might need to sit with dream, might need dream to repeat in different forms before pattern becomes clear. But if you're paying attention, if you're writing dreams down, if you're noticing patterns, if you're treating dreams as information instead of random neural noise message, becomes clearer over time. This reflection invites you to consider what themes have been showing up in your dreams lately. Maybe travel, maybe confined spaces opening up, maybe people from past, maybe versions of yourself, maybe specific locations, maybe emotions that linger after waking. Those themes are clues. Are your subconscious highlighting what matters, what's shifting, what needs attention? This reflection invites you to consider, what feeling do your recent dreams leave you with? Anxiety, excitement, confusion, possibility, loss, anticipation, readiness? Feeling is data, is indication of what transition you're in or approaching, is compass pointing toward what needs addressing. What hop on new timeline requires from you recognition that new timeline is available, that you're not stuck, that current trajectory is an only option, that change is possible even when it feels impossible. Recognition doesn't require knowing exact details of new timeline, just requires acknowledging things could be different. I could make different choices. Different outcomes are accessible. That recognition, that opening to possibility is first step. Can't hop to timeline you don't believe exists. Willingness to make different choice, to say yes to thing you've been avoiding, to say no to thing you've been tolerating, to change pattern, to take risk, to move when staying put feels safer. Willingness doesn't require certainty, doesn't require knowing it'll work, just requires deciding, I'm willing to try, willing to see what happens, willing to choose differently, even though different is scary. Attention to opportunities presenting, to invitations arriving, to doors opening, to synchronicities, to random encounters, to offers, to ideas that won't leave you alone. New timeline doesn't typically announce itself with trumpet fanfare, presents quietly, subtly, through conversation, through email, through thought that keeps returning, through person who appears at right time. If you're not paying attention, if you're on autopilot, if you're too busy to notice, if you're dismissing everything as random, you'll miss openings. But if you're watching, if you're treating life as responsive instead of random, you'll see patterns, see invitations, see opportunities organizing themselves. Courage to act when opening appears, to send application, to have conversation, to make investment, to end thing that needs ending, to begin thing that needs beginning. Courage isn't absence of fear, is action despite fear, is saying, I'm terrified, but doing it anyway, instead of, I'll do it when I'm not scared, which never comes. New timeline requires movement, requires stepping through door even when you can't see what's on other side clearly. and trust that choosing differently creates different outcome. That new timeline isn't just fantasy, that pattern can actually break, that life can actually shift. Trust is hardest part because you've been disappointed before, made changes that didn't work, tried things that failed, hoped for different and got more of same. But past outcomes don't determine future results when variables change, when you change, when choices are genuinely different, not just reshuffled same. What dreams are specifically trying to tell you probable messages? The thing you're waiting for won't arrive while you're on current timeline. You have to move to timeline where it's accessible. Maybe you're waiting for right relationship. But right relationship exists on timeline where you're healed enough to receive it, where you've ended wrong relationship, where you're in different city, where you're doing work that puts you in contact with different people. Current timeline doesn't contain that relationship. New timeline does, but you have to hop to access IT. The version of you that exists on new timeline is different than current version. You have to become that version to access that timeline. Maybe new timeline includes success you're wanting, but success exists alongside version of you who has confidence, discipline, skills, mindset you don't currently have. You can't access success timeline while staying version of you who lacks those things. Have to grow into version who has them. Becoming is the hop. You're ready even though you don't feel ready. New timeline is available now, not someday, when you're more prepared. Maybe you're waiting to feel ready, waiting to have more money, more clarity, more support, more confidence. But ready enough is current state. New timeline doesn't require perfect readiness, just requires willingness to move while scared, uncertain, imperfect. The door is open but won't stay open indefinitely. Window is available now. Act soon or window closes and you stay on current timeline. Maybe opportunity is presenting, but opportunity has timeline, has expiration, won't wait for you to feel completely certain. Dreams creating urgency, creating sense of this is moment, not eventually someday. Communicating, move now or stay put. This reflection invites you to consider what choice have you been avoiding that might be entry to new timeline. What keeps coming up? What won't leave you alone? What appears in dreams, in conversations, in ideas that return despite dismissing them? That's probably your entry point. That's the choice that shifts you from current trajectory to different one. This reflection invites you to consider what would different look like? What does new timeline contain that current timeline doesn't? Different location, different work, different relationship status, different health, different financial reality, different daily experience. Naming what's different helps you recognize if opportunities presenting actually lead toward that difference or just create distraction. What happens after you hop to new timeline? Immediate disorientation. Everything feels different because everything is different. Old patterns don't work in new context. Old responses don't fit new situations. You'll feel confused sometimes. Feel like you don't know what you're doing. Feel incompetent at new level. That's normal. That's not evidence you made wrong choice. That's just evidence you're in new territory and haven't developed fluency yet. Temptation to return to old timeline, to go back to familiar, to quit new thing and return to known thing, because known is easier even when it's unsatisfying. Resist that temptation. Sit with discomfort of new instead of fleeing back to comfort of old. Give new timeline time to become familiar before deciding it's wrong. Opportunities multiplying because new timeline contains different possibilities, contains people you haven't met yet, contains doors that weren't available on old timeline, contains momentum that old timeline lacked. One new choice creates conditions for next new choice. One door opening reveals doors behind it. Movement creates more movement instead of stuckness creating more stuckness. And becoming version of you who belongs on new timeline, growing into person who lives there naturally, developing capacities new timeline requires, building identity that matches new circumstances. That becoming is gradual, happens through living on new timeline. Through facing challenges new timeline presents. Through learning what new timeline teaches. Eventually, new timeline stops feeling new, becomes baseline, becomes your actual life, not just experiment or temporary change. And when that happens, when new becomes normal, you'll look back at old timeline and wonder how you tolerated it, how you stayed so long, how you convinced yourself that was all that was available. The power is yours. It always has been. Your dreams are delivering message because it's time to hop on new timeline. And when dreams come with their symbols of doors, travel past mixing with present versions of self, animals as messengers, your job is paying attention instead of dismissing, writing them down to track patterns, recognizing that new timeline is available now, choosing differently when opportunities present, and moving despite fear instead of waiting to feel ready. Take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. And listen, you've been on current timeline long enough to know its limits, long enough to know what it doesn't contain, long enough to know ceiling it imposes. New timeline has different limits, different ceiling, different possibilities. But new timeline won't come to you. You have to go to it. Have to make choice that shifts you. Have to take action that moves you. Have to hop through door instead of just staring at it. Your dreams are pointing, are highlighting, are communicating. This way, move now. New timeline available. Choose it. Listen to dreams. Pay attention to messages. Recognize invitations. Then hop.